What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Back Pocket Podcast. Today, we're on episode 10. We're going to be doing a soccer podcast for you guys today. There was a bunch of Champions League action today, Tuesday, October 3rd. I'm Charlie Nidell, coming to you guys from Syracuse, New York. I'm joined today by Dylan Shalom. Dylan, how you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Great day of Champions League. Excited to talk ball.
And Suraj Kadali, how you feeling?
Feeling good, like Dylan said. A lot of really interesting matchups, a lot of interesting results to go through. So yeah, excited to talk.
Our topics today, we're going to be talking about every game that happened today, which was half of our Champions League action. Manchester United, Real Madrid, Copenhagen, Real Sociedad, Inter Milan, Lens, Union Berlin, and some PSV versus Sevilla drama. So let's get right into it. To start off, Manchester United, they've looked so awful in the Premier League this year. They lost to Bayern in round one of the Champions League. And now, just to put it pretty simply, a freaking terrible performance. They just looked awful. I was watching the Galazzo show, so I didn't watch the entire Manchester United game. I don't know about you guys, but they were just so awful. Dylan, let's go to you first on your thoughts about this game.
It's a different game if Andre Onana is a competent goalkeeper. They didn't play well on the field, don't get me wrong, but two of the goals are clearly on Onana. The first goal, little bouncing shot over his head. A competent goalkeeper gets his hand on that. Second goal, there's nothing really he could do about it. It's just a bad defensive play all around from United. But the third goal, you have Mauro Icardi one-on-one. You don't sit down on the ground and let him chip you. You have to go out there and try to make a save. You can't just dive on the ground. I've played goalie before. Charlie can attest to this. I have played goalie before.
Not well, might I add. Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw OneFootball's match ratings for the Manchester United players today.
I did not.
It's the funniest thing. Rasmus Højlund, the new signing, had a 9.8 rating, two goals, a really nice first finish. Just fantastic. The next highest rated player was Sofyan Amrabat, who played left back at 6.7. Meanwhile, you had Mason Mount with a 4.8, Diogo Dalot with a 4.4, Andre Onana with a 2.9, Bruno Fernandes a 2.7, and Casemiro a 2.5.
That is so unfair to Bruno Fernandes. I didn't think he was that bad.
The entire team was on FOTMob. It was slightly higher for most players, but OneFootball has them rated so poorly. It's just funny. I'll try and put that up on the screen for you guys, but it was just a complete disaster class from United. Serge, I didn't hear what you had to say about the game yet.
Yeah, I think I've been talking about this with Dylan and you for a while. Basically, this midfield for United was it's just awful. I don't know what the plan was here. I know they've had guys injured, but I think the main culprit has been Casemiro has just completely, I think, fallen off a cliff this year. And I know we scored a bunch of goals, just had a few assists. I think he's United's no, it's still Casemiro, still their leading goal scorer for United, which is sad in itself, but he's just not able to defend the transitions and kind of keep United defensively sound the way they were last year, and it's really hurting them. They don't have, because obviously he's a below average passer, so they don't have any control over games. And Mount and Bruno, neither of them are controllers. They're more players that obviously like to go forward and push the ball forward, and they obviously are left way too vulnerable, which we saw against Bayern and we saw today against Galatasaray. Their defense was bad. Like Dylan said, Onana was a disaster. Not only the two goals that he conceded, but also kind of being responsible for Casemiro's second yellow card, giving the ball away there. I think another issue this year has been Marcus Rashford. He was so clinical last year, but this year, I think he's kind of let almost the accusations of him being selfish get to his head, because we saw him a clear one-on-one chance. He squares the ball, which honestly isn't a wrong decision, but passing is just not as strong suit. It's a very poor pass attempt.
It has to be a more powerful pass. You're 2-on-1 with the guy. You see Bade's coming back, trying to get in there, and
it was a situation that I was watching, and I was thinking, oh, Rashford's going to square this, and it's going to be an easy tap in for Bruno.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
And Rashford played that pass, and I don't know. I just don't know how he passed. I could have made a better pass.
He's just not used to passing in that situation, because he's always used to taking it himself. And obviously, I think passing is the right decision there. It's just such a bad pass, because it was such an easy finish for, I believe it was Bruno, right?
It was Bruno making the streaking run.
lone bright spot. I was talking to my brother's a United fan. He was talking about how he's kind of someone that really was able to consistently. He was very clinical with his opportunities. Was able to kind of wrestle with like the and win like kind of those duels with the Galatasaray center backs. And I think he's someone who, although he hasn't scored in the Premier League yet, will be someone who does get on the score sheet, can contribute with link up play. I think he's kind of was that lone bright spot for United. But other than that, it looked like a very poor, disjointed team. And if results continue this way, I wouldn't be surprised if Erik ten Hag's seat gets very, very hot.
Because they've scored 3 goals in 2 straight games now. And sorry, they scored 2 goals game past, but they've been very good offensively. 4 points out of a possible 6, a win against United. It's a really good resume booster for first Okan Buruk, who's possibly going to get a big job coming into the following season. But it's also a lot to say about the roster they have in place. They've brought in established stars, Mauro Icardi, Wilfred Zaha, Lucas Torreira, Davinson Sanchez had 2 assists today. And then you also have the young pieces, Ayhan, Aturkoglu, Angelino came in, and he's been very good for them. And it's just a good team all around that I feel like, sure, United should get the brunt of the blame because I wouldn't even say Galatasaray played a great offensive performance, but they really did. They did a good job when they had the chances. Icardi missed a PK, but he got back and he did his job when he needed to. So I would like to give Gala some credit.
Yeah,
No, Galatasaray definitely deserves some credit here because this is also a team that has not lost all season in all competitions.
Yeah.
They are unbeaten in the league. They are somehow second place because first place is 7 wins. Meanwhile, Galatasaray has a draw. But this is a team that probably realistically should have dropped more points against Copenhagen last week or 2 weeks ago if it weren't for the red card. But we'll get into that later when we talk about Copenhagen. But this is. I thought Galatasaray, I agree with you, Dylan. I don't think Galatasaray played brilliantly well. I think this was just more on United being so poor. So credit where credit's due. Galatasaray just went out and beat Manchester United, but and it was at Old Trafford, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And
yep.
that is an unbelievable thing to do. Just when you look at, Galatasaray beat Manchester United at Old Trafford in the Champions League. That's crazy. Nobody's expecting that to happen. So obviously credit needs to be given to Galatasaray. But for me, the more astonishing thing is that Manchester United lost to Galatasaray at Old Trafford.
Yeah, I think it was Galatasaray's first ever win on English soil, if I'm not mistaken.
Very possible.
Right,
yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's a team that really kind of in the first half, even though they were drawing 1-1, they didn't really necessarily, like, United pretty much dominated that first half. They did very well, but Galatasaray, credit to them, in a hostile environment, obviously not as crazy as the Turkish stadiums they play in there. Obviously, the atmospheres are much crazier.
I need to go to a game in one of those.
I know, but still a very tough environment, and they were able to very much hold their own, grow into the game. Obviously, the red card, but even before then, they seemed a lot more kind of comfortable than Manchester United as the game grew on, and they were able to get to equalize twice. Great mental fortitude, and but I do agree to a certain extent that I think this shows more about United, considering that again Galatasaray were probably about to lose at home to Copenhagen 2 weeks ago, because I think United this result is just inexcusable, and I know it's easy to blame this on Onana. It's easy to blame this on, I don't know, maybe Rashford for missing that pass. But at the end of the day, this was a team. There were so many players that messed up, whether it was Amrabat getting caught out from left back on I believe it was the second goal. And yeah, it was the second goal. Or Dello not being able to hold off Zaha on the first goal. Obviously, Casemiro and the midfield in general just did not. It wasn't good, basically. And I think this is a team that obviously you are what your record shows, and United have been very poor to start the season. I think 6 losses in their last 10. And I think at this point, it wouldn't surprise me if they do get grouped.
Yeah, so that was going to be my next question. What do you guys think? Do we think, if you had to make a prediction right now, do we think that Manchester United is going through to the next stage?
I would say no. I don't think they will, because I think they're too committed to keeping Erik ten Hag and making the project work. And I don't know if that's necessarily the wrong decision. There's a lot of problems everywhere with this team. The Glazers obviously being the forefront of that. But I don't think they can make a push for the next round with what they have going. 2 losses, 2 games. Copenhagen, we'll get to later, look very good. They're not going to beat Bayern. So, I mean, you're already in a really tough spot. I don't think you come back from it.
Surge?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think I would expect it to be right now Bayern and Gala just because I think getting that win at Old Trafford is massive, and as good as Copenhagen are, it's still a tough place to play. But I don't see United getting out of this group just because again, I think it's obviously with the team now, I know they have some players injured, but even then with whoever has been there, they've always since the start of the season seemed very incohesive, very out of sorts. I don't really, like I said, I think it would have to be a drastic change, like sacking the manager. And I don't even think that's the right move necessarily. But I think that a new manager bounce would be the only way, like these players get revitalized in any ways. Because right now they all just seem like they're just sleepwalking through the season. So I can't. I think it'll be Bayern and Galatasaray.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you. I don't know who the second place team will be, but United's already in a 4 point hole through
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks. That's a really hard hole to climb out of. That means they would absolutely need, and obviously with 4 games left, they've got to play Bayern once, and there are no points in that game, which means maximum they only have 9 points to win, and that would need them to go to Galatasaray and beat them and beat Copenhagen twice, and I don't see that happening for United. Which means realistically all Galatasaray need are one more win, and they play Copenhagen again. So this is I think United don't climb out of this hole. I could definitely see them coming third place and moving to the Europa League for the knockout stage, but I don't see United climbing out of this hole, at least not the way they're playing right now. If performances turn around, then maybe, because they have a talented roster. It's just they do need the performances to turn around in order. They can't slide through like this. I guess we'll stick in this group for a little longer. Group A, we'll talk about Copenhagen against Bayern, who Copenhagen took a lead today, went up 1-0, and I don't want to say look like the better team because I don't think they did, and I wasn't watching the whole game. Um, but they managed 11 shots towards Bayern's goal, 4 of which were on target, and the XG was 0.95 to 0.92 in Bayern's favor. So is this a Copenhagen team that's also going to be able to compete for the group? And is this a Bayern team that just had one bad performance, or are they not as good as we think they are?
So Bayern is a team that even if they play badly, they scrape out of it. Like we saw, Matthias Tell scored a late goal, but Jamal Musiala, I mean, the goal he scored to level the game up is sheer brilliance. That's a top 10 player in the world that's doing that. And Copenhagen, there's a real world that they have 6 points right now. It's a world, it's real. They really could be coming away with 6, and they have 1. So as much as I love the way they've been playing, it's a shame to say, but you can't leave points on the table in the UEFA Champions League and expect to go through to the next round. I think it's a really fun story. I mean, the fact that Rasmus Falk and Mohamed El Yanusi are going to be leading you to potentially finishing ahead of Man United in a group it's really fun, but you can't leave those points and expect to get through. They have to beat United in the next game.
Yeah, I think that goes without saying because just at the end of the day, like I said, I think they've been probably made arguably the most attractive team in the playing play style wise in this group so far. Maybe Bayern, but I think they've played really good. Like I said, deserved to beat Galatasaray away, which would have been a great result, but obviously the red card threw that off. But I think there still is a chance because believe it or not, they probably have their easiest game. At least with the trajectory United are on right now at this point in time, you could argue that this is probably, I mean, definitely an easier game than Bayern. I'll say that because Bayern are much more of a cohesive unit than Manchester United are right now. And I think this is a game
that's going to be a Højlund versus Højlund matchup.
Oh, that's true.
Oscar Højlund, 18 years old.
Yeah, but he will not be starting. I do not believe.
But I don't really know why you said that.
I feel like it was relative information.
It was an interesting statement, but I think, yeah, I just can't. I agree with Dylan that really at the end of the day, those are the types of games that you can't. I think Bayern at the end of the day they could afford to lose, but the Galatasaray game just your mind goes back to dropping those 2 points, and that could come in real crucial. So I agree with Dylan that definitely a must-win game against United.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, Bayern have not looked as potent in years past, or as in years past. I think they look almost slightly off the beat this year. I think they have, with having Harry Kane is obviously a massive improvement on last year, but I think they were starting to figure out how Matisse Tell fit into the team, and he was playing really, really well. He scored against United and a really good finish against United. But Bayern are third place in the league with 2 draws already. Draws against Leipzig and Leverkusen, who are 2, staples in the Bundesliga. But if you're Bayern Munich, you've got to be winning these games. For me, I think we would be having a really different conversation or if, as you guys brought up, Copenhagen had held on to all 3 points last or 2 weeks ago against Galatasaray. An unfortunate red card sort of threw that away from them. Only 1 point through 2 games is just a really, I think, unfortunate representation of how they've played so far. I think, you guys said it, Copenhagen have looked really good, and to only have 1 point through 2 games is just really, really unlucky. But, it's the game of football, and as mediocre as Bayern might have looked today, they're a team that's going to take all 3 points from you, and that's just how it's going to go. So I think, Bayern's going to walk this group. They're going to have an easy time of it. Maybe they don't finish with 18, but it'll be very close. It'll be 15, 16, or 18. It'll be one of those. I do think Copenhagen has a chance at advancing from this group because they still get to play Galatasaray at home, and we saw them dominate Galatasaray the last time out. So I think that could be 3 points for them. And who knows, if United turn something around and they beat Galatasaray the next time they play them and they don't beat Copenhagen, I do see a world where Copenhagen advances. But right now, I would say that it's a below 50% chance that Copenhagen advance as opposed to Galatasaray. I would say Galatasaray have a much better chance just simply from the fact that even if they haven't looked better through the first 2 games, they've just taken more points. And that's so, I mean, I know it sounds so obvious, but that's so valuable in this only 6-game season that, you've got to take points when you have a chance at getting them. And Copenhagen have failed at that so far. But if you guys have anything else to say about that, we can move on to Group B.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's talk Group B.
Group B, let's start with I don't know, let's go with Lens. Lens just beat Arsenal today. We just talked about Manchester United putting in an awful performance. Was this one more Arsenal putting in a bad performance, or was this Lens putting in a really, really good performance? Because this is a team that is currently 15th place in La Liga through 7 games, in Ligue 1 through 7 games. That's really bad, but they also warranted a Champions League spot. So what do you guys think? Good performance from Lens, bad performance from Arsenal, a little bit of both?
So I think definitely. Yeah, you go ahead.
Sorry. I would kick the 15th place in Ligue 1 to the side just for a little bit because it is a team that went through a lot of restructuring after qualifying for the Champions League. Their best player, Openda, leaving for Leipzig. But they did it so right throughout the entire process. So take it to this 2019-20 season, COVID year. It shuts down with them 1 point ahead of Ajaccio. They make it to Ligue 1, and from there on out, it's just been an upward trajectory for them. And you lose your best striker, and you bring in a young Elie Wahi, who looks like one of the brightest stars in French soccer and potentially in European soccer in the next coming years. You have a lacking midfield. You bring in Nampoli Mendy from Leicester, and he's playing like a completely different player right now. You have players that you brought in when you were a Ligue 2 team, and they're playing like Champions League level players right now. So they're doing everything completely right. It's a grassroots level effort, and this type of win should completely be cherished. I don't even want to talk about Arsenal. I just want to be shedding my light on Lens.
Yeah, okay. I think Lens Loans, I guess that's
no.
I mean, that's
you just said Ligue 2, so
yeah, because that's
you did say Ligue 2. I mean, but anyway, I think they put together a really great performance. I think the first kind of 10 minutes they actually played better than Arsenal. Well, played better in terms of the fact that they were actually able to control the game more than them. But then obviously Arsenal, they have a lot more technical quality and they're gonna mainly control the ball. But they really did not give Arsenal really that many chances. It was a really kind of, obviously you could say it was a poor showing from Arsenal, but at the end of the day, Lons did a great job limiting the opportunities for them. And like I said, Elie Wahi, brilliant performance. Or I will say, and again, like I said, I'm full agreement with Dylan that Lons deserve most of the credit for this, but also Arsenal with a few huge mistakes. Raya giving away the ball to get set up Lons' first goal, though that was a great goal. Like that was, I don't know if you guys saw it
Beautiful
live.
goal.
Great,
Beautiful
really
goal
Oh
from
my
the
good.
back
God.
to
That was
Frankowski through
that.
the middle. It was really
Mhm.
well done.
It was perfect. And then I believe was it Elie Wahi with the first goal, or was it
It was
No, it
Thomason
was
scored the
Thomason
first
who
goal.
Thomason
got the
with the
first
first
goal.
and Wahi with the second? But overall, they were able to do a good job setting up the low block, and I think Arsenal seems also intimidated by that um huge atmosphere. Obviously, French football known to have some of the uh another one of those like
Oh yeah,
countries like
absolutely. The
they have
ultras were
crazy the
phenomenal.
ultras. I mean, I that goes for a lot of the clubs in France, but especially Lons. Like that was a great it was a great atmosphere there, and you could tell it was one of their was it their I mean was that their first home game, or was that
It was their first home
what?
championship.
And you could tell. And Arsenal definitely did not. It was definitely a very different Arsenal team for what we saw against PSV. And it showed that they really still have, they're still a very young team, still a lot of room to grow. But all credit to Loans. And I think they deserve that win. And now top of their group, it seems very likely that I think they'll advance along with Arsenal.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't pretend I watch a lot of Lens football because
Yeah.
I don't. Not a lot of people do. If you could tell
Oh,
me you do, like that's
no, wait.
amazing.
I watched 2 games last season. I have yet to catch one this season, but I did actually watch 2 Ligue 1 games last season. I'm going in with it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're
Um,
welcome.
but I really do think this Lens team has something special. I will point out, I said 15th place in Ligue 1. They are 4 games unbeaten across
Yep.
all competitions. They tied Sevilla and then have won 3 straight, 2 in Ligue 1 and 1 in the Champions League now. I think this Lens team looks really, really good. I think Arsenal obviously didn't have their best performance because Arsenal at their best performance would have beat this team 4-0 because Arsenal is really, really good. But I think that I really, really like what they have going. I know Fulgini didn't play today, but he's also a really good player. He scored
Yeah.
against Sevilla the other week. And,
I think Fulgini came in.
Thomasson scored a really, really nice goal. Elie Wahi scored a really nice goal. Frankowski is really good. I do think that they are, at this point, I don't know about favorites to win this group because Arsenal's still in this group and they're only 1 point off. But I do think that Lens has a real chance at winning this group. And we can move to the second game in Group B. Just a quick summary: we had Sevilla play PSV in Group B. That was the other game, and talk about late drama. This game had it all. I believe 89th minute, 90th minute, 95th minute. Luke De Jong in the 86th minute it was with a penalty, and the series takes Sevilla back the lead 2-1 in the 87th, and then Teze equalizes yet again in the 95th. But Dylan, I'll go to you first. What are your thoughts on this game?
So it was a great game. A lot of late drama. And PSV, they did the job at the end. They were down 1-0 for a really good amount of the game. And Luke de Jong scores a penalty, buries it. And then it turned into a massacre at the end. It was a really, really fun watch. And Teze got the equalizing goal. Sergio Ramos had an assist, so that was kind of nice to see. But I mean, a really evenly matched game. And if Lens weren't as good as they are, I would say this is whoever makes the next round with Arsenal. But it's gonna be a really open group now.
Yeah, I hate to go for the lazy narrative, but it just seems like once again Sevilla are just going to finish third and win the Europa League. Because I think Arsenal and Lens right now look like the two best teams in Group B, and I think obviously for Sevilla another a heartbreaking draw at the end with Tete scoring in the 95th minute, and once again a great performance from Noah Long, someone who I think really could be a good a really good player for years to come, could get a big move to maybe the Premier League next year.
Mm.
I think overall though, Sevilla has been a team that really isn't good, like isn't a team really based on league play or even group play. And I think that's something that might really come back to bite them, given that how this team is really um has switched off in the last few minutes for the past few games. Not only this week, but also when their last game against who they play last. They didn't play. They played Loans, where they I think that was a game where they also gave up. They had a chance to win that one as well, but failed to. Um, but yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, definitely.
I
I
mean,
think that this group is super open. I mean, everyone's got a point. Nobody's got 6 points. And I think you said it, Lens and Arsenal look like the best teams right now, but I also think Lens will struggle a lot going to Sevilla, going to PSV, because this is not a team familiar with European competition. And hey,
of course.
they proved me wrong today. They beat Arsenal, but it's a different story going away in the Champions League. It's so much harder to do than anything they've done before. And I think Sevilla is a team with a lot of European, like they have the European pedigree, they have the past. Now, most of it's in the Europa League, but that doesn't mean that they can't translate some of it to the Champions League. PSV has even had more European experience than Lens, so I think this will definitely be a very, very close group. Lens just got their Arsenal game out of the way, and they'll probably be the only team to take 3 points off of Arsenal in this entire group. So that could be the thing that pushes them through. Um, Final standings predictions for Group B.
I'd say Arsenal first, Lund second, Sevilla third, and PSV fourth. Although PSV did play well against Sevilla, I just think I'm still more confident Sevilla at least taking point. I think they could also take points off Arsenal. I really wouldn't be surprised. And Lens as well. I think they're a team that's probably going to draw a lot of their games. But I think they're going to fail to. I think their team is a little bit too old for my liking. Players like Sergio Ramos, Rakitic, Suso. I don't know. I mean, to be fair, actually, Sergio Ramos is still a good player, but I think I don't trust this team to get out of the group, considering that they were not that great last year. They haven't been that great this year. They're 15th in La Liga. I would find it hard to believe that they get out of the group. I know Lons also haven't been great in the league, but I think, like Dylan said, going through that transition phase, it was definitely. I think it's a different story for them compared to Lens. But yeah.
Yeah, fully agree. I think the group standings are going to go exactly how you said: Arsenal, Lens, Sevilla, PSV, and PSV are going through some sort of American transition phase right now, where they're playing Malik Tillman, they're playing Serginho Dest, they're going to be playing Ricardo Pepi, and I think it's a marketing ploy because those are not the best players in their positions. But that team got killed by Arsenal. They scraped away a point against Sevilla. They're going to be the last place team in this group. I think Sevilla are not a really high quality Champions League level team, but they have the Europa League magical spell that makes them win every year. That's the only reason they're here. They finished 11th in the league last year. So they have that going for them. They'll get eliminated and they'll do it again. Lens look great. Arsenal look great. I'll give Arsenal the benefit of the doubt going forward as the winner of the group, but who knows?
Yeah, I think I agree with you guys. I think I'm gonna have the exact same standings, which is interesting. I just think even though Lens has a 1 point jump on Arsenal already, um, I don't see Mikel Arteta letting his team drop very many points for the rest of the group stage. And I think I could 100% see tying a lot of their games, whereas Arsenal's not going to go out there hoping to tie, whereas Lens might for a couple of them. But we can move Group C. We had some really, really good games. I think it was our best group for games today. We had starting, first place in the group, Real Madrid, and second place in the group, Napoli, had an unbelievable game today, ending in a 3-2 Real Madrid win. Thoughts on the game, Dylan?
So this wasn't even a good game. I mean, sure, it was 3-2, but Real Madrid dominated this entire game. And Napoli got 2 goals, one off of a set piece, one off of a penalty. This was a Real Madrid domination from what I saw. Again, I was watching the Golasso show, but it wasn't really when I saw a chance, it was not Napoli. And Real Madrid, credit where it's due. Jude Bellingham had a great game. Again, Vinicius scored another goal, but if you looked at Napoli's defending, this is not the Scudetto winning team anymore.
Well, they lost Kim Min-jae, who was their best defender
Of course,
last year.
you lose Kim Min-jae, but Stanislav Lobotka was one of the best defensive midfielders in the world last season, if not the best. And he lost a step. Zambo and Gisa, same goes. Piotr Zielinski is supposed to be that attacking, creative midfielder. He really didn't do all that much other than score the penalty. Kvaratskhelia scored his first goal in 27 games or something 2 weeks ago. Again, pretty much useless. Osimhen, pretty much useless today. Politano, always pretty much useless. This is a team that was the best team in Europe for the first half of 2022. And they are no longer that team anymore. Real Madrid showed them who is boss. Even though it was a pretty close scoreline, they needed the last 15 minutes of the game. Valverde goal. Meret own goal, technically, it was a Valverde blast. Real Madrid were the better team throughout this game.
Yeah, I think obviously the loss of Spalletti has been huge for Napoli, and Rudi Garcia clearly has not had close to the same effect that that Spalletti had. And I think for all the chances that Real Madrid did have, it was moments of classic Real Madrid individual brilliance to the Champions League that won them the game, whether it was Jude Bellingham's incredible solo run. I was earlier talking about how I thought he was maybe a tad overrated, but there's no doubt he is still one of the best players in the world right now. I think obviously Vinicius, as always, getting a goal in the Champions League. He's starting to become one of those classic great Champions League players, and wouldn't be surprised me if he's up there at the top and at the end of his career in terms of Champions League goal contributions. And obviously Valverde's not technically his goal, but he basically made it happen with that sweet half volley, which like ricocheted off the post, off Meret. And it was very classic Real Madrid, but they did really dominate this game. Like Dylan said, really not a lot of positives to take for Napoli. Like you said, it took a Kepa mistake, which I think Charlie could be all too familiar with as a Chelsea fan. And then obviously the penalty, which really was, I don't even know if it was a penalty. It was a pretty lucky decision against Real Madrid there. But yeah, that's all I have to say there. And I think actually one more thing. I don't think Napoli are going to make it out of the group, because I know they did beat Braga, and I know they did barely lose to Real Madrid, but I think this is a team that definitely seems to be kind of almost similar to Manchester United. They seem kind of out of sorts, and Braga very unlucky that late own goal to lose that game. I wouldn't be surprised if they still end up finishing second behind Real Madrid.
So I think the stats behind this game would kind of surprise you guys. Just looking at the stats, they're very deceiving. This was a game that was 50-50 on possession. Napoli had more expected goals by 0.7. By the way, expected goals, I don't know if I've said this before, it's the worst stat. It's awful.
It bothers me so much because I think teams actually look at it and say, okay, this is a chance that you have.
They take it as the end all be all
instead of shoot it. Like, they're using it as analytical evidence to why you shouldn't shoot the ball, why you should be passing the ball. And it's going to start to become like a real problem in that we're seeing less fun soccer almost.
I mean, but it's not even, I don't have a problem with it as like a way that it's affecting the game. I just don't think it accurately portrays scenarios. I think it's wrong most of the time. But either way, Napoli had more XG by about 0.7. They had the same amount of shots, more shots on target than Real Madrid. But I'm with you guys watching the Golazo show. This was every time it felt like every time they showed a clip from this game, it was Real Madrid on the attack, because Napoli it didn't feel like they had any great chances. They scored a penalty, and Ostergaard scored in a Kepa mistake. And I just don't think that Napoli played particularly well. They looked okay defensively, except for, Vinicius carved them apart for the first goal, and Bellingham carved them apart for the second goal. And then the third goal was just, Valverde became Valverde. But I think that, Serge, I would agree with you and say that Napoli wouldn't make it out of this group, but I don't think that Braga or Union Berlin is strong enough right now to take points at Napoli. I just don't see it happening. Not for me.
I disagree with that. I think Braga are very much strong enough to take points at Napoli. I think Union Berlin will take points at Napoli.
And
That being
speaking of,
that
yeah,
being
no, yeah.
said, I think Napoli will still make it through just because I see a little bit of an edge to them in their home. I agree in their home games. They have the edge over these teams, and I think Braga and Union will continue to split their games. I don't think that's. I think that'll be a draw when they come back. I think Napoli have the possibility of winning. They have the possibility of winning out, other than Real Madrid. The other teams don't have that possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we can go to that Union Braha game, that was a huge comeback from Braha, and once again for Union Berlin, a heartbreaking end after conceding in the last minute to Jude Bellingham against Real Madrid. Then they lose in the last minute to Braha. I think it's really I think they've played very well in their Champions League games, but they've just lost focus at key moments in that game. And just to go over, I don't know if you guys have seen that yet, but that second goal for Braha, that it was kind of almost, it was another half volley from outside the box, except it didn't deflect off the bar and hit the keeper, and it was a brilliant goal. I forgot who scored it, but it was definitely,
Puma,
I'd
who
say,
scored the goal. It was a beautiful goal.
beautiful, beautiful goal. I was watching that live in my communications lecture. Tried not to
Bruh.
talk to but anyways, that was a huge comeback for them. And I think one thing that definitely is really interesting to me is kind of a very disappointing performance from Leonardo Bonucci for Union Berlin, someone who they've brought in to kind of give that experience, that composure in these kind of games, and they just completely lacked it. In particular at home, this is a game where when you're up 2-0, you have to kind of like lock it down. It's over. We got this. We're in the Champions League. We need to limit the chaos. And they weren't able to do that. And Braha grew into the game. And at the end of the day, they deserve to win. It's a huge game, especially coming off their own heartbreak against Napoli last week.
I mean, at the end of the day, Union Berlin pride themselves on being a very strong attacking team with very strong attacking players all over the field. I mean, Juranovic and Robin Gosens are very attacking fullbacks.
Absolutely.
And then you have Toussaint Haber and Kral, who none of which are really a defensive midfielder. And that's why we're going to see Ricardo Horta really take control of the game for Braga in the second half when you have tired defensive midfielders that aren't even defensive midfielders. I want to shred some light onto Geraldo Becker, who has been one of the best strikers in Europe for the past
Two
3
brilliant
seasons now.
finishes.
He's been phenomenal for Union Berlin since this kind of transformation they've had. But Braga, another team that through thick and thin have done it right. They've done it at a grassroots level and been able to transform without any real big transfers. They haven't let anyone really go for a lot of money, but they have a team that's been together for a good amount of time. Horta's been there for a while. Niakate's been there for a good amount of time now. They just brought in João Moutinho, who's going to be a big piece to this team probably for the next year or so. Mm-hmm. And then you have Jose Fonte on that team. You have Andre Horta, who was in the Portugal setup earlier in his career. Pizzi. It's a team of veterans, of Portuguese veterans that are committed to this system and really are capable of getting this spot in the next round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I think this is a much more concerning loss for Union Berlin. If you go back, I don't love tying it in back to their league play, but Berlin have lost 6 games in a row in all competitions. They only scored 1 goal in all of September, haven't won a game since August 26th. I think you can, if you were looking at that, you could kind of expect them to lose today against Braga. And especially they went up 2-0, and it could have been 3-0 if it weren't for Robin Gosens' 3rd-minute goal being disallowed. They would have been up 3-0, and then Bruma scored an unbelievable goal. I mean, that'll be a contender. I mean, it'll definitely probably win goal of the week. Could be a contender for goal of the Champions League this year. I mean, just an unbelievable goal. And then heartbreak yet again, a 94th minute winner from Andre Castro. Berlin don't look convincing enough to me. I know they were really, really great last year. They earned this Champions League spot, but Geraldo Becker is yet to score in the league. And I believe they sit 11th place, and it's just not good enough from Berlin so far. I think They have to put up better performances. This was a home game, one that when they look at the schedule, when the groups were released, they're saying we need to win this game. This is a very important game for them with, Real Madrid and Napoli in this group. This was Braga's the easiest team for Union Berlin, and they lost at home. At this point in time, I could see them losing all 6 games of this group stage because they still.
I disagree with that. Just because
I don't think it will happen because I do think they're good enough to turn it around, but the games they have left, they still have to play Napoli twice. They have to play Real Madrid and they have to play Braga in Portugal. That's 4 tough games. For me, there's no way back in this group for Union Berlin.
Yeah, if you look at their schedule, they have a span of games, which is Braga, Bayern, Mönchengladbach, Real. That's the end of their group.
There is no way back for this team.
No, I think the issue really is that they needed to at least get points, at least from one of these games, because just the fact, not only the fact that obviously they have 0 points through 6 games, but the fact that they had it in their hands and they let it slip both times, especially against Real Madrid, literally minutes away from getting
2 94th minute goals.
2 94th minute goals. And then I think this one's even worse because they're at home and they're against an opponent where a much weaker opponent, an opponent where they really should have been able to get points, like Dylan said, that really attacking mindset of having so many players like Kral, Tussar, Hranovic, Gozens, Becker, Behrens. It's like it was definitely it made it a lot easier for Braga to get back in the game. And credit to them, they were able to do it. And with that, I think it's just too demoralizing for them to find a way back, even in a group where I think with Napoli struggling, with Braga not still, I don't think they're particularly one of the stronger teams in the Champions League. I still there could be a way back for them, but I think losing those 2 games, it's just too heartbreaking. But they're gonna definitely need a result against Napoli next week or 2 weeks.
Yeah. So as always, Group C is done. What are our final standings predictions, Serge?
I'm gonna go Real Madrid and I'm gonna go Braga just because I think Napoli, not convinced by Rudy Garcia. Like I said, very poor performance today against Real Madrid. I think losing at home is tough. When I think, although Real Madrid obviously have a lot of quality, I think they're not as tactically sound as some of the other big teams in Europe. So I think it's possible to take points off them at home, and the fact that they weren't able to, I think and the fact that they didn't play well at all, I think it's very disappointing for them. So I'd say I think Braga will finish above them.
Dylan?
So I'm gonna say Napoli take the spot over Braga, but it's very close for me because Napoli is still defending a Scudetto in their domestic league. Braga have much inferior competition that they're playing against in Portugal, but there's just a quality to the Kvaratskhelia and the Osimhens and the Zielinskis that even though they might not be on form, on their day, they could be some of the best players in this Champions League. So I don't think Braga has that. Union certainly doesn't have that. So yeah.
Yeah, for me, I'd also go Real Madrid to top the group, Napoli to come second place, Braga to come third. I agree with you, Dylan. Even when these teams look off the beat, this team has so much quality through Osimhen, through Kavicha. It's gonna be so hard for Braga to knock them off of that second spot. Not saying it's not possible, but it's looking really unlikely as of right now. This next matchup will be very telling because Napoli and Braga face off. I'm not sure where the game is, but it's going to be Napoli and Braga already played, but whatever. So but next week's fixtures will be super important because if Braga has to go to Real Madrid, and that's a near impossible game for them to win, but we'll see. Moving on, our last group that played today, Group D, Real Sociedad, Inter Milan, Red Bull Salzburg, and Benfica. Sociedad and Salzburg was one of our early window games. They played at 12:45 Eastern today, and Sociedad, a comfortable win. I think this was one of our worst games today. 2-0 win, but I don't think Salzburg ever really looked threatening in this one. I think, only 1 shot on target from Salzburg, less than 1 expected goal. I don't think there's much to talk about in this one.
Yeah, I think one thing I want to say is that I think Sociedad have been a team that really have kind of flown under the radar this Champions League. But for me, they look like a team that I think could maybe resemble this year's, at least in terms of the Champions League, this year's Napoli, where they're going to perform very well in the group stages, maybe get to the quarterfinals, playing some good good soccer, because I really like some of their players like Martin Zubamendi,
Before you
Mikel.
say it, Takefusa Kubo.
I was gonna say
Takefusa
Takefusa
Kubo has
Kubo.
been one of the
Yeah,
best players in the
he's
world
been
this
brilliant.
season. It's
He's been
undisputable.
brilliant.
This guy has 5 goals in the league. He's the third leading scorer in La Liga coming from the right wing, and he can play pretty much any position on the
Yeah.
field. He's been so unbelievably good this year. I just wanted to say it before anyone else said it because I want to
No,
be the one
you're
who
right.
said
You're
it.
right.
But
I just left him for last because he's obviously the key
oh my
player. The
God,
reason why he was on Real Madrid. Obviously, Mikel Oyarzabal as well. In defense, Lenormand. There's just a lot of quality, and it makes sense. They play I think, a very attractive possession style. And I think it's something that really they're going to be a team that I think will finish first in this group. I know I'm already saying my predictions beforehand and spoiling it, but I really am high, I think, on this team, what they can do in the group stages. But yeah, obviously great performance, beating Salzburg 2-0, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think this Sociedad team, again, I think they do have potential to win the group. I won't spoil it. I'm going to keep it close to my chest for the predictions phase. But this Sociedad team, it starts from the back. Alex Romero, one of the best goalkeepers in La Liga for the past few seasons now. And then Zubielda, Lenormand. It's just a good team altogether. I just got completely dark. I don't know why.
Not forget to Bryce Mendes as well.
Yeah,
Goal and
Bryce
assist.
Mendes, he's been since his days at Celta, he's been one of the better midfielders in the Spanish project. But what was Gerhard Struber thinking with the lineup today for Salzburg? You leave potentially your most important player and Andreas Ulmer on the bench. You leave
Sucic was
Nicholas
on the bench.
Sucic was on the bench. Capaldo was on the bench. I mean, Charlie, you know why I'm ragging on him, obviously,
Oh my
but
God,
like,
Dylan and I know all too much about Gerhard Struber.
man, but what was this? I mean, Oscar Gluck, I like that they're giving him opportunities. Good young talent. I think he'll be good in the future. But the front line of Karim Konate and Roko Simic, instead of the likes of Luka Sucic, Nicolas Capaldo, I mean, that's just like a mind-boggling Elias Manuel season-long loan type decision. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And you can see by their just going off of the FOMOB ratings alone, 6.0, 6.2, very little impact on the game. And again, Sucic in particular, very surprised that he did not get game time in this kind of game. And he was definitely one of their more definitely one of their better players when he for the limited time that he was on the pitch. And it was yeah, very like I'd say toothless performance from Salzburg in a game where they really kind of needed to have it. Still not in an awful position, only 1 point off of qualification, 1 point behind top spot actually, with Sociedad with 4 points. But overall, I agree with Dylan, disappointing performance, and I think definitely I could see some changes to the line, but particularly up front.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on to the other game in that group, our last game of the day, Inter Milan and Benfica. This one was in Milan, and this was just, I think, pure domination from Inter. Only six
This
shots
game,
to Inter's 21 from Benfica. And I mean, Marcus Thuram finally scored, but Lautaro Martinez, who came on at the weekend, he came on at the weekend in like the
Scored 4
65th
goals.
minute and scored
he
four
scored four
goals,
goals.
which is absolutely nuts. And then I think he hit the post and the crossbar today.
He had
This is
four
a goal
chances
scorer.
that on his day, he had four chances
He would
today
have
that
all
he would
scored.
have scored. But
Um, it's a pure goal scorer. Marcus Thuram was the one who actually broke the deadlock in the 62nd minute. The game stayed that way. Inter have a lot of 1-0 results in the Champions League. I feel like that's their style. Thuram, I think, was a really fantastic signing for them. I know he hasn't necessarily proved it in Serie A so far, but as a player for the club, I think Marcus Thuram makes a lot of sense. And Dumfries assists Thuram, 1-0 win. Benfica, I didn't think they looked very good at all. They defended pretty well for most of the game, but they lost. So
Yeah, I think it's seeming pretty inevitable right now that Benfica will not make it out of the group, which is disappointing considering how well they did last year in the Champions League. Their midfield got very outclassed. Kochu Neves and Rafa Silva wasn't really got completely overran by Kalinoglu, Barella, and Henrik Mkhitaryan. I think overall the defense was solid. Otamendi with a nice clearance, although he did allow Lautaro Martinez again another one of his great chances when he let him in clear one-on-one on goal after giving the ball away. But again, Martinez just couldn't score today. But overall, pretty disappointing performance for them would be Inter, another team that I would feel they should be probably pretty confident right now that they will make it out of the group all across the board. Very similar team, very consistent performance today. And I think this is a team that seems primed for another run in the Champions League.
I mean, Inter, other than their loss to Sassuolo in this midweek game before Salernitana at the weekend, they were practically flawless this season. I mean, you start off the season, you beat Monza, you beat Cagliari, you beat Fiorentina 4-0. Then you play Milan and you win 5-1. Go in, you draw Sociedad in the group stage, beat Empoli, lose to Sassuolo, beat Salernitana, and you beat Benfica. The question has to be asked: is this team a legit threat again? I think they are.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
mean, I feel like there's no reason to say not to when they literally made it to the final last year. I know obviously a weaker draw on their half, but still, I think a very strong team. I think the difference of playing Thuram over Arnautovic was a really huge change. Also not playing Aslani, instead playing Çalhanoğlu. A much better defense with Bastoni, Acerbi, and Benjamin Pavard. And it was, I think, today obviously a much more seemed a lot. I think it looked like their best team. Honestly, I think it was their best team, and it showed. And I think, obviously, in a good position right now in the group.
And on a good Lautaro Martinez day, this is a 5-0 game also.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's just like
I would honestly argue that this Inter team this year is better than the team last year.
Honestly. I would make that argument.
The problem I think they'll have, and the reason I think they might not go back, is they're going to compete for Serie A. They're going to compete for the Scudetto. And last year, Napoli ran away with the Scudetto so early that nobody else had to worry about it. Inter finished third comfortably, so they could focus on the Champions League. But this year, they're going to have to focus on both Serie A and the Champions League. It's going to be a tougher challenge for them because, I think this is a team with a lot of depth. I think they do have the players to maintain their status in Serie A and also win games in Champions League. And we're not going to see that much of a struggle through the group stage from them. But I think once you get into the knockout rounds, if they draw someone who's good in the second round, if they draw someone who's good even in the round of 16, it's going to be a struggle to keep their form up in Serie A as well as win games in Champions League.
I will say, though, that last year, I know they weren't competing for the Scudetto. Napoli had that wrapped since January. But really, they were still competing for a while for top four. And obviously, I think everyone can remember last year, they had like a stretch where them and Milan had both like lost like their last like 4 or 5 games in Serie A. Like their form was terrible there, but in the Champions League, they kept on winning and winning and winning. So I think we could see something similar. Like Charlie said, maybe this time it's the Champions League where they bottom out and they continue to win and go for the Scudetto. But I think right now, I agree actually that they do have a better team right now, at least a better start last year in an easier group compared to Bayern and Barcelona. But I think I'm pretty confident that they at least they will make it out of the group, and I think they are a contender for the Champions League.
Yeah, and I think that the reason they're gonna not struggle so much is I think this is a team with loads and loads of depth. I don't think it's recognized enough. I think people see their team and they're like, oh, they have Lautaro Martinez, they have Bastoni, they have Barella, but this is a team with a lot of depth. I think they have 5 capable center backs in Darmian, Acerbi, De Vrij, Pavard, and Bastoni. They've got Juan Cuadrado. They've got Dumfries as fullbacks. They've got DeMarco. They've got Carlos Augusto played today. Mkhitaryan deputizes as a false 9 sometimes. But in the midfield with Barella, Fratesi, who's injured right now, Çalhanoğlu, Davy Klaassen, Lautaro up top, Thuram up top, Arnautovic, who's injured right now, Alexis Sanchez. This is a really, really good team that I think genuinely, depending on the route they take throughout the knockout stages, we could see in the Champions League final again. I believe their one big game this year so far was against AC Milan, and they tore them to shreds. This was two teams that came into the game super hot, and Inter just said, I mean, this was, I think their true one hard game so far. It was a 5-1 win. It just was not even close. It didn't even look close from the jump with a 5th-minute goal to start the game. This Inter team is serious this year. I think they could go and have a vengeance and potentially even go out and win the Champions League this year. Mm-hmm. So, that's going to be it for Group D. So our final predictions, what's going to be the group order for Group D?
I'll go first since I already spoiled mine. I'm going to say Real Sociedad first just because I really like their team and how they're playing right now, and Inter second. I think it's going to be one of those groups where both are worthy of a first position, and they'll probably both finish with 14 or more points.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I'll say.
I'm going to say Inter win the group, Sociedad second, Benfica third, and Red Bull Salzburg bottom.
I'm going to go pretty similar. I'm going to say Inter on top, Real Sociedad second. I'm going to say Salzburg finished third. I don't like Benfica this year. I have them finishing fourth, but pretty irrelevant. Salzburg's not going to do anything in the Europa League. But that's going to wrap up the video for today. We've got some more great matches tomorrow, October 4th. I don't know when this is being posted exactly.
Want to do quick fire predictions for that?
We could run some quick fire predictions for tomorrow's games. Let me pull them up really, really quick. Tomorrow we have, let's start ourselves off. Group E, Atletico Madrid and Feyenoord.
I'll say Atletico.
I'll say Atletico too.
I'm gonna go with a draw. This one's in Feyenoord, so I'm gonna have a draw. Celtic go to Lazio.
I say Lazio.
I'll say Lazio. By the way, Atletico is at home though. This is at the Wanda.
Oh, it is at Atletico. I'll just take a draw anyway because I already said that. So sorry, this one is in Scotland as well.
Yeah, I'll go Lazio.
I'll still go. I'll go for a draw then.
I'm gonna take Lazio in this one. Dortmund host AC Milan.
I'll take a draw.
I'll take Milan. I'm not a fan of Dortmund this year.
Give me Milan as well. Dortmund have struggled so far this season, and Milan have looked pretty good. Newcastle host PSG. I think the game everyone's going to be watching tomorrow.
I'm going to take PSG.
I'll take PSG as well.
I'm going to argue that this one won't be close, and PSG is going to kind of kill them.
Yeah.
Red Star host Young Boys.
Red Star home advantage, one of the biggest in all of Europe. I think they win this year.
I'm going to go with Young Boys. I'm going to take Young Boys.
I'm also going to take Red Star. RB Leipzig, somehow always in Man City's group. I feel so bad, but RB Leipzig host Man City.
Draw.
City.
It has to be Manchester City, doesn't it?
Draw.
Okay.
No explanation, just draw.
Headed to Group H, we've got Royal Antwerp hosting Shakhtar Donetsk.
I'll take Antwerp. I think those Belgian sides always kind of are one of the more, we saw last year with Club Brugge. There's sides that are well coached. And yeah, I'm going to be honest. I don't know too much about Royal Antwerp. I'm going to take them over Shakhtar.
So I like Royal Antwerp, but I can't give them this game. I'm going Shakhtar.
I'm also going to take Shakhtar in this one for no particular reason. I just think they're the better of the two sides. Last game for tomorrow, finish out Group H. FC Porto host Barcelona at one of the world's best stadiums, right? So, what are our thoughts?
I really wish I could give this game to Porto because just like it makes so much sense in the Champions League. Barca have been terrible recently, but Barca just look like a different team right now. João Felix has been unbelievable. Lamine Yamal, Gavi, Ilkay Gundogan, Pedri. I'm not going to just name off players. I'm just going to say Barca.
Yeah, I think this is a much more healthy Barcelona compared to recent years, even without, I think Araujo is still injured, but they still have Christensen and Koundé. Obviously, a great midfield, no matter who you put there. They got João Felix really playing well, Lewandowski playing well, guys like Rafinha and Ferran Torres who's playing well. Yeah, I can't see Barcelona losing.
Ferran Torres is not playing well, but Barcelona have not lost a match since July 26th, and that was a friendly against Arsenal. Go back in the league, it's been since June 4th, and I don't see them losing tomorrow in Portugal either. I'm also going to go for Portugal. So that's going to wrap up or I'm also going to go for Barcelona. I don't know why I said Portugal there, but that's going to wrap up our video for today. This was our Champions League summary for match week 2, the first slate of games, and our predictions for match week 2, second slate of games. Thank you guys, Dylan Shalom, Serge Kadali. It was a pleasure having you guys on. This is the Back Pocket Podcast. We will see you guys next time.